Greetings, chess players, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Analyze That, the exciting chess program where you send me games and I analyze that. Our first game today comes from Akaduboski versus maelysk, was played on chess.com. The spelling on the first player's screen name is akaduboski. The spelling on the second player's name is maelysk. Maybe it's aka Duboski. And maybe Analyze That is the exciting chess program where I destroy the pronunciation of your chess handles. Alright, so let's look at the game. aka Duboski plays e4. Good. e5. Knight f3. Knight f6. We've got Petrov's defense, or the Russian game. Knight takes e5. Whoa! Knight takes e4. maelysk plays knight takes e4. Well, let's talk about this Damiano stuff. So much better is the ideas with 3d6 there, right? And then we've got knight f3, knight takes e4, d4, and d5. The classical Petrov. However, maelysk plays 3nx e4, which isn't really played by serious players anymore, but it is known as the Damiano variation after its debut game in the Pedro Damiano versus No Name game from 1497. In that game, play continued with 4 queen e2, and it did here as well. And then in Damiano's game, black played 4 queen e7, the No Name player. And let me see if I can remember it all. Queen e7. It was queen takes e4. That's right, Chris. You remember now. d6, d4, f6. Dangerous stuff. Opening up this diagonal, the h5 to e8 diagonal. White played f4. Black played knight d7. White developed another piece, or Damiano developed another piece, I should say. dx e5. Knight to d5, threatening the queen. Damiano's opponent played queen d6. And Damiano played dx e5, fx e5, fx e5. Queen's under attack. She moves to c6 in this game. And Damiano attacks her again with bishop b5. Note, if queen takes bishop, then knight goes to c7, check, and wins the queen with a fork. So the queen goes to c5, bishop goes to e3, and now queen takes, and Damiano, of course, played knight takes c7. Check, forking the king and queen. That's one of the oldest games I ever show in any of my classes. As I said, that game was played by Pedro Damiano, and the year we have on it is 1497. That's a long time ago. So back to aka Duboski versus maelysk. Let's see what's going on before I get too far off track. Knight f3, knight f6, knight takes e5, nx e4. There's the Damiano line, right? Don't do that, kids. Play d6 instead, right? All right, so the Damiano line, queen e2, and let's see what happens now. Queen e2, and black plays d5. There's one other trap. There's one other trap that is, even more famous than that game I showed you that I should mention here. I like to call it the Queen Nabber trap. I'm not sure. I think somebody else probably named it that before me. But that is when black plays this huge mistake, knight f6, then white can play this extremely powerful move. And we'll draw some arrows so it makes sense. That's a check. Oops, that's not a good arrow. There we go. That's a check. That's an attack on a queen. And that's an attack on the square that the queen could go to block the initial check. So black will lose their queen in this line. Again, let me show this line to you real fast. E4, E5, knight f3, knight f6, knight takes. Then after queen, E2, if black plays knight f6, you say thanks for your queen. Thanks for the queen, right? So, okay, there's some good knowledge on Petrov and the Damiano variation, but let's get back to our game between akaduboski and maelysk. And I don't think I'll get off track again. I probably will. Queen e2, d5. So black plays d5, not the bad knight f6 move we just looked at, and not queen e7 like in the game from 1497. And white plays d3. That's a good move. I like it. It's moving the knight someplace it doesn't want to go. Black actually plays f6. Uh-oh. With white's knight already on e5, playing f6 is a huge mistake because it exposes the king on this diagonal, right? The e8, h5 diagonal. So that's a big mistake. White should just pop their queen out to h5, smack, and then black could block. Knight takes g6. That's a classic motif. We've seen this a lot in a lot of different opening traps and such. However, that's not what happens. d5 after d3 and then f6. White misses the really good attack here of qh5. White plays knight f3 instead. So missed a easy opportunity to get a winning game there. And then black plays bishop b4 check, which is not a great check because white can easily interpose with the pawn on c3, and they do. And then black castles. Now that's interesting. I would have expected that bishop on b4 to move somewhere because it's under attack, but I guess what black's going to try and do is scoot their rook, allow white to take the bishop, and then scoot their rook to e8, trying to get a pin on the queen to the king. It's an interesting idea. I don't think it's technically sound, but black's already in a fair amount of trouble here. It's an interesting idea. And indeed, they do play rook e8. So black sets the trap. Dx e4, dx e4. Queen d2, aka Duboski. That is a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Do you guys see why? Now black could take the knight with check, with the discovered check, and indeed that is what happens. Ouch! Then king goes to d1, and black plays bishop f5. You know, if I was black there, yeah, I think I would be especially mean here. I would play queen e7, because then you have this nice stacked power going down the e-file, but you're threatening putting your rook in d8 to retry and get that pin. I mean, I guess white could play bishop c4, throw in a check there in this line, king h8, and then we'd want to move our queen out of that file. But then, this line gets intense. Look at this. Let's not forget that black can do this, and then white would have to save their rook, obviously. Black, I guess, could develop another piece. White could play... Yeah, I kind of like bishop d2 here. And then black could play bishop h3, defending that pawn. It's kind of a chaotic position. and I would prefer to be black. I would prefer to be black. That would have been fun stuff. That's what I would have done. But maelysk, after king d1, played bishop f5, which is an okay move. That's fine. Let's see. Queen takes d8, rook takes d8, check. Bishop d2, knight c6, bishop b5. Here comes that fx g2, rook g1, and then bishop e4, defending the pawn. But maybe this is a key learning moment in the game. I think let's back up one step, and instead of defending the pawn, we could play this crusher, knight d4. We're threatening the bishop on b5. We're threatening c2, right? And we're threatening going to f3. So, I mean, yeah, maybe white can play knight c3, and then we could play knight f3. King could go to e2. So we're forking the rook and the bishop here, right? The pinned bishop. King can go to e2. And then you could just play knight takes d2, rook takes g2, and you successfully traded your advanced pawn, which is kind of hard to defend anyways, for a full piece. So yeah, I would have played that knight d4 idea instead of the defensive bishop e4. Let's be offensive. Let's attack when we have the advantage with knight d4. Okay. So 15 bishop e4. And then bishop takes c6, 16 bishop takes c6, 17 knight c3, rook d7. Black is trying to get both rooks involved in this d-file pin, presumably. And white plays a nice. White's trying to remove the guard, right, from g2. So both sides here, both guys here are using some strategy. Bishop f3 check. Of course, if you play the check here, then you aren't going to have this pin anymore, because that king's going to move. So king goes to c2, rook a to d8, and black has all their pieces in the game. Rook a to c1. Huge mistake! What just happened there? What just happened there? Rook takes d2 check. Free bishop. Free bishop is what happened there. Let me see. You know, when I see a player make a huge mistake like this, I like to come up with a correction for them. I think the easy one is just bishop e3. Your bishop's safe, right? You're okay, and you're guarding d2 with that bishop too. So I think that's pretty good. But then, you know, if I was black, I'd probably play h5. And then maybe I'd play like rook c1. And see what I'm doing here with this black pawn is I'm going to come down here and defend g7 so I can use my bishop for something better. And white sees that he doesn't need to really be attacking that pawn anymore, so you might as well get your rook in the game, and black defends the pawn. And it's equal, but very imbalanced, right? We have an equal position, but very, very imbalanced. Should be fun. That would be a fun endgame to play. But unfortunately, white played 20 RAC1, which allows rook takes d2 check, king b3. Now black's got a huge advantage. Rook 8 to d3, pinning the knight, I guess. h4, rook takes f2, nice. King c4, nice, stacking the rooks in the 7th. And then 24 b3, and then rook c2, setting up possible trades, forcing trades. Rook takes c2 when you have the advantage. Rook takes c2. And white played a4, and black played b6, stopping whatever white's trying to do down that way. King d3. Ooh, let's see. Rook b2, attacking the backside of the pawn. King goes back to c4, and black plays h5. Now, I got excited a moment ago, and I was wondering if black was going to spot it. But instead of 28 h5, which is where we're at right now, move 28 h5, what if black just plays rook f2, threatening rook f1, right? How are you going to stop that? Answer is you can't. You cannot stop black from going there. So, it doesn't matter what white does, and then you get rook f1. And then if you're white, it's actually probably better just to take the pawn with the rook, but you're completely lost at this point anyways. So black had a much simpler win, but back to move 28, black h5, 29, rook e1, g6, king b4, g5, hx g5, fx g5, of course. Rook e8, go ahead and throw in a check, see what happens. King f7, rook goes back to e1 to defend against black from getting a queen. h4, here comes these pass pawns. Not a lot of hope here for white, but you never know. Knight d1, uh-oh. And rook b1, nice pin. Nice pin. Now we can play rook takes knight. And the rook would have to go or trade, yeah, and they're just lost. White plays king c3. Actually, black played bishop takes. Rook takes is much more forceful, gets the job done faster, right? Because then you're threatening a second trade on top of it, right? But black played 35, bishop takes d1. King d2, h3, here we come, rook g1, h2. How can the rook stop those pawns? Answer is, white's rook cannot stop both those pawns. Rook takes g2, h1 equals a queen, rook f2, bishop f3. Let's see if we get a nice checkmate out of this soon. King e3, g4, king f4. Okay, let's see if black can get something together here. Rook takes b3, rook d2, king f6, puts the kings in opposition, maybe gives you better chances for a checkmate. Rook d7, rook b4 check, certainly forcing king back to the third rank. King e3, king e5, kind of going with that king and rook versus king checkmate instead of maybe something. Let me think for a second here. Let me think. Oh, yeah. What about queen e1, king d3, and then bishop e4 checkmate, right? Mate and twos, kids. Practice them at home. There are plenty of ways you can practice your checkmates. And not only will you win more games, but when you're winning a game, you'll just seem more professional as well. More professional, more proficient, all those good pro words. Rook takes c7, rook b3 check, king d2, queen h2, king c1, rook b2, rook c2, and then checkmate. AKA Duboski and maelysk. Thanks for allowing me to run through your game. We got to talk about Petrov's defense, some basic ideas in that. We got to talk about Damiano's old line in Petrov's defense and see some of the old traps in that. And we definitely see, again, the importance of analyzing checks, captures, and threats. Because Duboski was doing okay until he dropped a piece, right? You got to analyze all your checks, captures, and threats. All right, on to game number 2. We have Cutie Cat 227. I think we looked at one of their games last week versus JJ94. So Cutie Cat, CUTI EKAT227 versus JAYJ94. And let's see what happens. This was also played on chess.com. Remember, if you want to send your games to me, become part of our group, the Daily Chess Musings group on chess.com. Play some games, and then you can email me your games. Email them to analyzethat@gmail.com. analyzethat@gmail.com. And your games may end up on our program. All right, back to Cutie Cat versus JJ94. Cutie Cat starts with e4, e5, knight c3, developing a piece, knight f6, f4. Oh my, the Vienna Gambit. Fancy stuff, Cutie Cat. d6. Interesting. First, d6 is an okay move, but let me talk about one thing you probably don't want to do. If you've ever seen the Vienna Gambit as black, and chances are you will, I don't like this line. If black takes EX, I like it as white, but as black I wouldn't do it, because if you take EX f4, what's stopping white from playing 4 e5, and then your knight has to go somewhere, right? Or you could say, well, you know what, I can pin the pawn to the king, but they can put their queen in front too. And then again, your knight has to go somewhere. So I think that gives white kind of a simple advantage. So you don't want to play 3 EX f4. But getting back, let's see. Getting back 3 f4. J94 played d6, which is a fine move. It's a little, it's more defensive than I prefer. I prefer 3 d5. And let's see. Let me think in my head. Yeah, that's right. Karl Schlechter versus Herzfeld, Vienna 1893. So now you know why it's called the Vienna Gambit. I'll show you that game real fast. I don't want to spend too much time on it. But yeah, I prefer, when you're in 3 f4, go aggressive with 3 d5. And let's see if I can remember this game. Schlechter plays d3. That's right. Yeah. And then here comes the pin, fx e5. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this is a fun game. This game reminds me of if you're playing like Super Smash Brothers and both players have the hammer or something. These guys just start bashing each other. This is a very violent game. And you'll see what I mean. Here comes the queen with the check, and then king e2 is actually best here. And then bishop takes c3. No safety for white today. No safety at all. If you play exciting openings like the Vienna Gambit, then you got to be prepared for exciting, dangerous positions, right? Dx e4 attacking the pin, right? And then Karl Schlechter played queen d4. Herzfeld, the crazy Herzfeld, played bishop h5. This is a crazy game. King e3. Bishop takes f3. Gx f3. Which opens up queen to e1, check, right? And then now look at this white king way out there, king f4. But it's time to get more pieces in the game. We don't have a good, meaningful attack until we get some more pieces, and getting more pieces in the game allows white to start doing some stuff too. Queen takes c3. Bishop b5, pinning the knight, which is also already attacked by the queen. Herzfeld, did he? Which way did he castle? He castled queenside, that's right. Castle queenside, bishop takes, and then instead of taking back, Herzfeld played rook d4. Oh, beautiful move, right? Pinning the queen to the king, and then bishop takes b7, king check, king goes to b8, rook b1. Yeah, so Karl Schlechter's queen is pinned But he's got this discovered check stuff happening very soon. So rook takes e4, check. Bishop takes e4, check. King c8. See what I mean? It's like both players have the hammer in this. This is a very, very violent game. Rook d1, g5, check. Throwing everything you can at your opponent, including pawns. King g3, queen takes e5, check. King g2, queen a5, no check. So white plays bishop b7, check. Now it's white's turn. Right now it's Schlechter's turn. Bishop b7, check, king b8. Stepping right back into that trouble, but black's queen and rook are on dark squares, so we can move this out of the way and not lose those guys. Bishop c6, king c8, bishop d7. Carl Schlechter's trying to figure it out. King d8. Rook does not go to b8. No, that wouldn't win. Goes to b5. Wow. Queen escapes, goes to c3. And then bishop takes g5, check. Black plays f6 because it is defended by the queen. But then bishop f5, check. Another discovered check. King e8. This is a crazy, crazy game. Sometime maybe I'll go through it one-on-one with you guys. I do this in lessons, and I could spend a half hour just on this one game, and we are not going to do that today. No, we are not going to. Rook b8, check. Black's running out of options here. The bishops are taking away his escape routes up, and so rook d7 is a nice checkmate. That was my favorite Vienna Gambit game ever played. Carl Schlechter versus Herzfeld, Vienna 1893. That's the type of game you can expect if you start playing 3d5 instead of the more defensive 3d6, which JJ94 played. So let's get back to our actual game. e4, e5. f6, f4, 3, d6, more defensive. Knight f3, sure, let's develop a piece. Knight c6, looks fine. Bishop b5, pins the knight. Knight d7, that looks a little awkward. Yeah, I would, maybe bishop g4, maybe bishop d7. Both of those moves don't look awkward to me. Knight d7 seems awkward and does not develop a new piece like the aforementioned bishop moves. White plays d3, a6. Okay, bishop takes, messes up the pawn structure over there, and black's position is looking rather full of problems. J94, you've got a piece developed to your second rank, nothing further. You've got an isolated pawn, doubled pawns, and your bishops are completely blocked in. White's position, on the other hand, white's ready to castle, has more space in the center, has two beautiful knights. So I would much prefer white here. Queen e2, putting the queen in the same file as our opponent's king. Seems reasonable. g6. 8 moves in, and black still hasn't developed a piece past his second rank. You got to work on that, JJ. Got to work on that. fx, e5. White's opening up the center. Black can free himself by exchanging. We know that. However, when you have better piece development right now, like white does, I might be willing to allow them to uncramp themselves a little bit if I can open up the center on their king. I can castle, they can't. I've got better pieces. So it's a concession I am willing to make. Knight takes e5. Bishop g5, developing with a threat against... Oh, no. We have to analyze checks, captures, threats. This is a huge mistake. It looks good, but if knight takes f3, that is a check. Then if queen takes back, black can take this bishop here. Let's see if that's what happens. Yeah, bam. Just like that, black is winning. and a piece up. Queen takes f3, queen takes g5, e5. So white is threatening this thing. c6, fork, king and rook. Let's see what black does. qx, e5, check. Good move, black. Knight e2. Bishop h6, developing. But I have a question. What's defending c6? The answer is nothing. Nothing is defending c6. So q takes c6, check, and now white's right back in the game. So both sides have not analyzed their checks, captures, and threats. Both sides have made one major mistake, usually a game-ending mistake. Black plays king e7. You know, I would play king d8 here, because then after you lose the rook, there's nothing we can do about that. But then you get this rook e8 thing going, where you've got a battery on a pinned knight, and that's kind of nice. White can come back and defend, of course, but watch this. Oh, that's beautiful. Attacking the guard, right? Attacking the guard. I guess white can step back another move, but we did, develop our... Oh, and then we could do this, right? Queen takes b2, rook must save itself, and then you could take c2. And I like coming with the pressure like that. If I am black, it's king e7 is what black played. So queen takes c6. I'm suggesting king d8, but what black played on move 14 is king e7. So queen takes a8, bishop g4, and I can hear black saying, go ahead, take my rook, white, and then I'll checkmate you. But I don't think Cutie Cat's going to fall for that. I don't think she is. She does not. Cutie Cat will not be defeated by such dirty tricks. Rook e8 is what Jay plays. Wait, can't white just take your bishop now, Jay? What's defending the bishop? They could. They could. I bet. Nope, Cutie Cat does not. She plays qx e5, sadly missing the free bishop. dx e5. Gotta analyze your checks, captures, and threats. That's the big... There's a couple of fun things in this game. The historical Vienna information, the cool game I showed you. Not playing the early pawn capture as black against the Vienna Gambit, stuff like that. But the main important stuff in this game so far is analyzing your checks, captures, threats. Knight g3, king d6, knight e4, check. King d5. You know, Jay, when you activate the king in the endgame, that's good. That's good strategy. But you got to analyze all your checks. Here we go again with that, right? Analyze all your checks because... Oh, there it is, knight f6. And the white knight is checking the king. 20, knight f6 check. Threatening the rook and threatening the bishop. And that's it. Black J resigns at that point. But, you know, there's really not much anybody could do to save that. I mean, you could play... you're going to lose your rook, right? You're already down. So I mean, I guess things could have went like this, right? Maybe they save their pawn. Doesn't matter. We castle. White has 2 rooks versus black's 2 bishops plus an extra knight. Nothing you can do pretty much with those odds. So it was an okay time to resign. Although I should note, never resign. At this level especially. Never resign. What are you saying, Chris? Yeah. If these were grandmasters, then okay. You know, but we're here to learn, and if you resign, you're missing out on learning opportunities. Good game, Cutie Cat 227 and JJ94. Now let's go to game 3. Our final game for today. Game number 3. Here we go. Game number 3 is played between sparshg and HeavyCotton. So sparsh, S-P-A-R-S-H-G, and HeavyCotton. And this was also played on chess.com. Once again, if you want to have your game featured in Analyze That, all you have to do is join our club on chess.com. The club's name is Daily Chess Musings. It's open to everybody. It's a free and friendly group of chess players who are fans of this show and working hard to improve together. Join that club, play some chess, and then send your game to analyzethat@gmail.com. analyzethat@gmail.com. Let's look at sparshg versus HeavyCotton. Sparsh starts with e4. Good. Pawn center. Black, not so much. d6. No pawn center. White gets 2 pawns in the center. Good job, White. Black plays g6. Still, preparing to fianchetto the bishop, right? But still, nothing in the center. No pieces developed. 3, knight f3. White has 2 pawns in the center. And a knight developed. This is the way I play chess. I tend to stay away from the hyper-modern stuff. I tend to be right in your face, get some pawns in the center, develop pieces really, really quickly, and then win from there. Black plays bishop g7, 3 bishop g7, knight c3. White's got 2 pawns in the center, 2 knights develops. Black has 1 bishop, but it's a very good one. A slow pawn move. When you're down in development, I don't think black should be playing slow pawn moves here. White develops a 3rd piece. Black gets another bishop in the game. White develops a 4th piece. Still has complete control of the center. Knight c6. White castles. I really like White's position here. Should be relatively simple to figure out how to push your advantage in a position like this. Usually, I might do one of a couple things. I might go queen d2, lining up the queen and the bishop to after black castles, trade off this bishop, because you get rid of your opponent's fianchettoed bishop that's sitting in front of their king, and they've got a hole in their roof, is what I like to tell my students. It's so much easier to develop attacks that way. Of course, the other option would be if you don't think they're going to be castling soon, you could play queen e2, which is putting the queen in the same file as your opponent's king. And then scoot your rooks and then push a pawn, right? Open up the center. So White has a nice position, and I can formulate some fairly easy plans. Black moves the same piece twice in the opening. They're down in development. They're moving the same piece twice in the opening. Do I want to give up my bishop pair here, though? Probably not. Probably not. Let's see what they do, though. He's willing to... sparshg is willing to give up his bishop pair. So, a3, bishop takes, queen takes. We're on 9, qx, d3. And the famous, I might as well talk about it. Famous 10 opening rules. Go ahead and watch To the Point. Our episodes, I go through the 10 opening rules a lot. I can break those 10 opening rules down into just 3 opening goals. Those 3 opening goals are have a pawn in the center. Here we have 2. Castle. And unify rooks. Make it so your rooks can see each other. If your rooks can see each other, then your pieces, your minor pieces, are already developed, right? So you want to do those 3 things as soon as possible. If you're doing those 3 things as soon as possible, you'll be following the 10 opening rules as well. Let's see. Black plays knight h6. Knights on the rim are grim, because they're influencing squares out here that don't even exist, right? Instead of influencing the center. And now, not only is that knight 10 queen d2, not only is that knight grim, it's under attack. But black plays knight g4. And white plays h3. My one complaint, sparshg, with your play so far is that you're allowing black to trade their knights for your bishops, which could end up really bad in an endgame. Otherwise equal endgame, equal material endgame. If black has the bishop pair and you don't have bishops, his bishops are better than your knights. And it almost seems like we're heading in that direction. So, yeah, you know, maybe, let me go back here. So when they play, you know, if I'm going to be critical, I'm also going to show you what I think would be, suggest something that I think would be better. So rather than allowing the knight to take our bishop, again, like they did on the other side already, I would probably play bishop f4, because you're already getting ready to push e5 soon anyways. Black could castle because they don't want to be in the center. Then go ahead and hit h3. Then when they go knight f6, look, then you get to go take away, you get to put a hole in their roof. Remember what I was talking about when your opponent fianchettos early? If they're castle behind that bishop, you can trade your bishop for their bishop, and they've got a hole in their roof. They've got weaknesses ahead of their king. But you, after 10 g4 for black, you played 11 h3. 11 knight takes e3, 12 fx e3. Would I take with my queen there? Probably. Why mess up our beautiful pawn structure when I don't see any advantage in it? Queen takes e3, black would probably castle. And then I would just get my rooks centralized and ready to push these pawns forward, right? So after 11, knight takes e3, 12 fx e3, 12 castle, rook f2. I guess white is planning to stack their rooks and attack in a semi-open file. If I'm black, I'm not losing any sleep on this. f7 is plenty guarded. I don't see how that plan's going to pan out for white. Black plays e5. And just like that, after a few suboptimal moves by white, I'm starting to like HeavyCotton's position. I'm starting to like black's position here. Dx e5, rook a f1. Yep, they are stacking those rooks. Again, I'm not too concerned about it. Bishop h6. Interesting. Probably I would play, now that they've kind of organized, now that Sparsh has organized his rooks in the F file, I would move the action to the D file, which he should find a little bit annoying. And of course, if he takes, well, then you just have a rook in an open file, right? Plus you're trading queens, and you have the bishop pair for the endgame. So there's another reason why I would prefer the bishop e6 to bishop h6. Why I would prefer this to this. All right, so 15 bishop h6 is what was played. Knight h2. Still trying to do something here with f7. Maybe they're thinking g4, but the bishop could just take. So this knight's not going to f6. White's invested too much time in this plan with the f-file here, and black's not moving this pawn anytime soon that I see. Queen g5. What? For the last several moves, white has struggled creating a meaningful plan, and it's such a shame that HeavyCotton, it's such a shame that you're allowing white to take this bishop. If they take it, they've got a fairly easy one game, and I was really starting to like your position. Despite my problems with how you started the game, I was really starting to like where this game was headed for you. And then just like that, you got to analyze all your checks, captures, and threats. You just gotta. Everybody's got to analyze checks, captures, and threats. Queen takes e3. Knight g4. There's a nice fork, right? Forking the queen and bishop. Queen g5. Knight takes h6. Check. Queen takes h6. Knight d5. Here comes possibly another fork. But that's a nice knight move. Rook a to d8. And queen takes c7. Rook attacks the queen. Here comes another fork. We can kind of see them before they happen. And it's not because we're Jedi Knights. Knight goes to e7, check. That's move 22. Black plays king h8. Knight takes rook. And I think that's it. Very, very nice technique in the beginning and the end for sparshg. I liked, black resigned here. So very nice technique in the beginning and the end for white. Sparsh, you got to work a little bit more on your middle game strategy, okay? And HeavyCotton, your opening wasn't great, but you didn't lose because of that. Black lost because of a careless blunder. And the best way to eliminate those is to analyze all checks, captures, and threats. So there you have it. 3 games from this week played by our club members, the Daily Chess Musings Club on chess.com. Speaking of which, you should check out our club on chess.com. You should also check out our website, dailychessmusings.com. I have a whole bunch of free material on there. You can directly link to our YouTube videos from our webpage. Plus, you can click on the Chess Musings blog, which I have been doing. The Chess Musings blog for like a dozen years. So I've got thousands of free lessons on the Chess Musings blog. So you should definitely check that out. And we also have a events calendar on there. You can see when, for example, when we're going to have tournaments, club tournaments, when I'm available to play chess with you guys, when I'm doing special group lessons and awarding prizes, things like that. All that's on the calendar and the blog at dailychessmusings.com. But this series of videos on YouTube is part of our Daily Chess Musings YouTube channel. And this series of videos is called Analyze That. And if you want to send a game to have it analyzed on this program, send it to analyzethatdcm. Please, if you like this, if you learn stuff, and I'm sure you did, please like and subscribe. Feel free to comment. I have been your host, Chris Torres, and this has been Analyze That. Have a great week.